Welcome back to the Dignitea, where we look at today's news and infuse it with dignity. I'm your host, Madeleine Jones, and I'm here with David.
Hi.
David, let the people know what you're drinking.
I am drinking some mint tea.
I'm drinking some coffee, which is not tea, but it is like something steeped in water, so it's fine.
Same, same.
It works. It works. Caramel sauce. All right. This was kind of a big week this week, wasn't it? Anything going on?
Yeah, the 47th President of the United States was sworn into office this week.
On
So,
Martin Luther King
uh,
Jr. Day,
right.
when there was a football game.
And cold temps.
Go Lions, Tigers, and Bears. And cold temperatures. Oh my goodness, that was.
Yeah.
I had a hard time going outside this weekend. That was not good. All right. Well, to get into this, I do want to talk a little bit about the dignity that Trump had in his speech, but also the responses, because obviously he's kind of I think every politician is polarizing, but Trump comes to mind when you think about polarizing people,
Sure.
at least for me. So we're going to take a look at some people who had some contentious responses to him, and then some people who had some dignified responses. So let's take a look at what Trump said that was dignified. During his speech, he said, "We are one people, one family, one glorious nation under God. So to every parent who dreams for their child and every child who dreams for the future, I am with you, I will fight for you, and I will win for you." What do you think?
I think this is great, dignified, uh, unifying language. I think it's hard to actually put it on the dignity index, give it a score, just because there isn't this other side and this need uh, or this opportunity to maybe respond with contempt, but it's a great use of dignity. I think I love that quote.
Yeah. One of the things about dignity is if you want kind of that higher score, you do have to get into specifics. I think even acknowledging the fact that he knows he's polarizing or he knows that people don't feel like they're fighting for him would have like brought this up. But I'm really
Yeah,
happy to see it in this either way.
yeah, it's great.
Now, a couple of people didn't like him. U.S. Representative Seth Moulton from Massachusetts. He said, "I think it will go down in history as the darkest inaugural address ever."
Yeah, that sounds pretty scary. Us versus them or existential threat, just scary, dangerous, worst ever. Um,
Well, it kind of reminds me of something that Trump said in his speech too, which was, where is this thing where he's like, the previous administration, maybe one of the worst administrations. Actually, they're the worst. It's like the same level of contempt on both sides, which is kind of funny, saying
yeah,
just about the same thing.
right.
Now, there was a little bit of dignity in response to this. So, Elizabeth Warren, I feel like her statement was dignified.
Yeah, so it talks about things that Trump has said and which shows she was listening to the other side, and then explains her point of view without contempt. And I think that's a great level of responding to somebody who you disagree with and still being dignified. I think she also said something around the same time of uh, it's a gut punch and he's good at distracting us with chaos, which shows that people move up and down the scale all the time, and it's not uh, this person always uses contempt. This person always uses dignity. I mean, you even showed that with President Trump and his up and down on the dignity
Yeah. People
index.
are like, how did they score on the index? And I'm like, that is a complicated question. Or
Yeah,
it's a simple question, it's a complicated answer because it's like, you can't really average someone's score because, yeah,
we go
you
up
can
and
say this
down.
guy's a gut punch and then you turn around and you talk about the policies you specifically don't like.
Right.
And you're not talking about Trump's character, which is dignity.
Yeah.
All right. What was our other thing? Okay, one of the things that I noticed from this a lot was the statement, "End the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life." I got a lot of feelings about this. Facts, expertise, not really there. So I took to Google. Now, someone had looked at, I think this was a White House press release, and it's basically like everything has to be labeled female or male, right?
Yeah.
All government documents. Female means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the large reproductive cell. Male means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the small reproductive cell, which is interesting because I do remember in health class, like the Y chromosome doesn't kick in until a little bit. So everyone, that's why men have nipples. Fun fact, if you didn't know. Did you know
Yeah.
that? You did?
Yeah. I'm I'm reading this book that talks about this kind of stuff.
Not from college though.
Not from college.
What's the book?
The Great Cosmic Mother, I think. It's a good book. I think that's what it's called.
The Great Cosmic Mother explains why men have nipples. What? All right, I'm gonna read that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's good.
This is a hard one for me to like be dignified and show like be the devil's advocate here because I do feel like I'm being the devil's advocate a little bit. I don't
I mean,
really
I think
love.
it's good to ask questions and be curious and see where people stand and push back, you know.
True, true.
Um, can we also talk about Trump calling this the golden era?
Yes. So, can you tell me what the golden era is? Because it just makes me think of his penthouse.
Yeah, I
Good.
mean,
It will be awesome.
so the golden age denotes a period of peace, harmony, stability, and prosperity. So I think
I love that.
from like an overarching perspective, the golden era sounds kind of nice.
I think so too. Yeah, I would love that. I kind of feel like everyone in America would love that. Peace, prosperity.
Yeah, and I mean, I know there are going to be concerns, but I think, like you said, there are a lot of these shared values that um, and interests that we can build off of and use those as a foundation to make America a better country for every citizen, to have liberty and justice for all Americans. And then off of that, then we can talk about, you know, different morals and values and figure out those type of things. But yeah, I mean, I think most Americans and most people would want this peaceful, harmonious
1,000.
society.
Like, I do feel like when we assume what the specifics are when someone else defines golden era, because the way he probably defines golden era is not the way that I define golden era.
Right.
Like to me, golden era is like affordable housing, affordable healthcare, uh, probably much more stuff than that. And I'm sure that he would agree that's a golden era too. Affordable energy, like that was one of the things he was talking
Yeah.
about. Affordable eggs, not the eggs. Um, and so it's funny because I think that if we work off of that common, like, what is our end goal, we find that we actually have a lot in common. A lot of the arguments I have with my grandma and basically everyone who is ideologically different than me, I feel like we start at a point of disagreement on a policy, and then we wind up talking about what the ultimate goal is. And then I'm like, oh, okay.
Right.
I, yeah.
Which this could be a great question to ask people of like, President Trump talks about this golden era, like what does that look like to you? And this is what it looks like to me. And are there any areas of overlap, or are there areas where I have questions on why you would want that, or why I would want that, which could help build a conversation. And I think, like you said, it starts with this uh, commonalities instead of starting at a disagreement and try to work your way backwards.
Yeah,
It helps build that foundation of a better conversation.
for sure. Now, while I was watching the inauguration, like secondhand inauguration, I feel like everyone on TikTok makes fun of people on Instagram for getting like the 2-month old used stuff.
Yeah,
But I'm like, TikTok, come on, aren't you doing that the same with like MSNBC and C-SPAN? Like you're getting like the recycled, like
true.
real news. Just think about that. I do a lot. But one of the things that I thought was funny is I was looking into his speech, and I was like, man, that guy really looks like Bezos. And then I was like, that guy is Jeff Bezos. He is at the inauguration right now. Now, I don't remember ever seeing billionaires at the inaugurations, and that may be because I wasn't watching them, and
Right.
maybe because it was a bigger space. There were more people there, and so you're not like, hey, there's like three
Less
billionaires.
less prominent or like less public figure. Like
Yeah,
everybody knows Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg.
they've all got, yeah, they're all very recognizable. But for me, I honestly was really concerned when I saw Bezos, and then you see Elon, and then you see Mark Zuckerberg, and you're just like, that is a lot of people in power kind of like standing behind Trump at the inauguration. It was just very concerning for me. And I also feel like the visual of it was, I don't know, it just startled me
Yeah.
with all of that. And the funny thing too is like, it wasn't just the faces like we really recognized. Sundar Pichai, he's the CEO of Google, I believe. Bernard Arnault, CEO of like every luxury brand, basically. Miriam Adelson, I think she does gambling or something. And
Hmm.
then the CEO of TikTok was there, Xiao Chu.
Interesting.
And of course, Dana White and Joe Rogan.
I think, yeah, also interesting to consider of, yeah, maybe there are probably a lot of people who are also excited about having business-minded people in government instead of um, these career, lifelong politicians. But if there are fears on both sides, I think it's okay to express those and not think somebody is a certain way for expressing some concerns for having more politicians or more business people involved in some of these decisions.
Yeah, it does make sense in terms of like, if you want people who are successful advising or running things, then this makes sense. I mean, this is basically $900 trillion in this picture right here.
Yeah,
And it's like they all built that wealth within their own lifetime, which is pretty remarkable. No pun intended on Mark Zuckerberg. But I don't know, it still kind of like rattles me. The funny thing too is that we've all seen these products that they sell every single day. Like you can't drive down the street without seeing an Amazon truck. At least I can't.
yeah.
Or Tesla truck, Cybertruck. All
So,
right.
yeah,
But I think that unlike me, who's like, "Ooh, this makes me uneasy. Why are they there?" Which is a four. Uh, Elizabeth Warren mentioned like that the billionaires having seats in front of the cabinet members like said it all. And then Bernie also talked about in oligarchy in a 7-minute YouTube video, which I think was a really fantastic, dignified video. Bernie Sanders does have a lot of extreme views, but I feel like a lot of times I don't see him necessarily demonizing the other side. Now, I may eat my words on that, but
yeah. I watched that too. I mean, I think it's definitely good to have conversations and stand firm in your position. Do you think statements like Bernie Sanders um, helps with conversations with people who might like billionaires working with Republicans, with the president? Or do you think it uh, shuts down the other side of like, oh, just another radical?
So
a
bringing up
liberal.
Bernie Sanders in a conversation.
Or just like if somebody watched, if maybe a more Republican leaning person watched Bernie Sanders talk about this oligarchy, um, do you think it opens the door for conversation, maybe some policy discussions, or is it more like, oh, he's just there he is again, just you know,
You know, that's actually a really good point because I am watching that pretty much agreeing with everything he's saying. And so I wonder on what basis you would disagree with it and if you feel like he adequately addresses those points.
sure,
Um, because I mean, I will say alarm bells were ringing for me as far as like oligarchy, which I think is probably the case since Citizens United passed. Like,
yeah.
this is the result. Um, I don't know. Do you think?
I mean, I think it depends. He said something else, which I thought does. I mean, it's hard to take a 7 minute video and like we said, there are points that are going to be more contemptuous. But and another thing, Bernie Sanders said uh, that he campaigned on working, um, take on the political class and act on behalf of working families. And Bernie's like, I'll be happy to work with him when he wants to do that. But until then, I am going to vigorously oppose him, which is still standing your position, but also saying there are things that he said he was open to work with. He was open on working with me. And so I am too. I'm ready to get to work on some of those things. And I'm still not open to everything, which is on the lower end of the dignity side of the scale.
Yeah,
Yeah, which I think is great.
the
But
lower end of the dignity side. It's great.
but still opening up that I am not going to let my agreements keep us from cooperating on things that we do agree on or that you said that you agree on, which which is good.
True. I liked some of the commentary we saw about this. Here are a few of my favorite comments.
Yeah,
If
let's.
democracy, then why oligarchy shaped? The land of the free, what a joke. Tech titans, I like to call them corporate sellouts. Ooh, that was. Stop glorifying billionaires. What scares me even more is that Musk is willing to do. Oh, wait, that was a different one. That's about the next topic. Control the communication companies, then control people's mind, and eventually turn the most important model democracy into an all powerful oligarchy. A lot of people are talking about the oligarchy in this, the potential oligarchy.
Yeah, I think it's important to be able to uh, state your opinion and push back and be able to advocate for policies that you want and share concerns you have. I do think when it turns into disgust, then people who do support these businesses, they're not going to really want to have a conversation with you. So
Mm,
it's people can say what they want, but if you're trying to have a conversation, push policy forward, then I think it's important to be mindful of how you're advocating for different policies.
definitely. Well, speaking of our billionaire row here, Elon Musk did something at what, the after party, the conference center. What was it? What did he do?
This was after the inauguration. He saluted the crowd and said thank you.
Oh, I'm talking about the thumbs up behind Barron.
Oh, that one. He's very excited and passionate, has a lot of energy. Um, but there were a lot of comments around that action, that gesture that he did.
1000%. And so a lot of suddenly, and the irony here is about a week ago, we had a lot of colleagues in the office. Most of us work from home. And I was actually talking about how my grandma, when she was younger, she would do the Roman salute to the flag while she was in school.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember talking?
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm maybe a witch or something, and just like maybe I did this on accident. Like somehow
Oops.
the energies, gotta read Cosmic Mother, I guess. Well, that feminine energy is going dark. Anyways, it is a Roman salute. Now, I think some context around this, you could see how thrilled he was the entire day. Like him walking up to the stage, he is like bubbling, full of energy, and I don't know that there was like necessarily a lot of thought going on here. It's also super important to not accidentally do a Nazi salute. And if you do, in my humble opinion, I think it's really good to acknowledge it and be like,
Yeah. And I mean that it talks about that on the dignity index of being, admitting mistakes, um, and saying maybe I'm contributing to this problem. But instead, we saw a lot of people. We saw people responding with contempt toward Elon Musk. Um, so then he uses contempt back.
Definitely. Something I thought was interesting is that Nazi was number 11 on Twitter yesterday. When I looked this up, I was like, I feel like that's
Interesting.
related. Um, a lot of people were saying this is him throwing his heart out to the crowd. I watched the video. He just is like, thank you. He's not like, my heart goes out to you. This is really bad because I talk with my hands, and so I want to like gesture the way he's doing it. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. um, but I mean, there's so many. The reaction on this has been like, that is a Nazi salute. They're like wide out in the open. Um, this was one of my favorite TikTok quotes. I think I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending. Actions speak louder than words. So what is he really saying? Imagine being a World War II vet and seeing this. Someone said I watched this like 9 times.
So yeah, how do you think people can respond with calling out these actions, without? I, I feel like this is, yeah. How do we have this conversation without demonizing the other side?
I think it's important to talk about the severity of what that gesture symbolizes. Like, I don't think that we should just be like, oh, maybe, like, he definitely meant to do a Nazi salute, or that was definitely a Roman salute. You guys have no idea what you're talking about. Looking at the video, I do feel like he just wasn't thinking about it and was being dumb. But that's just my interpretation after not knowing anything about Elon Musk really, other than Cybertrucks.
Sure.
Um, I would hope too, though, that he would respond in kind to that, saying like I this would be embarrassing. Like imagine accidentally, you're like thrilled, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, "You're a Nazi." Could you
Right.
imagine? That would be very hard to be like, "Yeah, I see what you guys are saying here. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't look good." But that's what I would hope is to see him acknowledge that, and also to see like we want people to talk about how hurtful and scary it is
Yeah, for sure.
to see that because it is.
And how it can
Yeah.
that can also fuel this contempt, or uh, having people's dignity, or having people feel like their dignity is being violated,
Mm-hmm.
uh, by doing that,
Sure.
or not taking it seriously. We're
Yeah.
not apologizing.
Yeah, I think that's kind of this has been the response of a contempt culture is you feel like one side is totally reactionary or overdramatic. And I think this happens both with the left and the right, where we're both like, these people, man, they just
Yeah,
really are reading into things. Like, it's not that big, it's not that deep. And so you see people going, excusing something like this when I feel like 10 years ago, this would have just been like a public apology
yeah.
interview.
Instead of the back and forth on
hmm
Twitter, on
Yeah,
X.
because we don't give people grace or even like the acknowledgement of that maybe the hurt that that may
Yeah,
cause. So
exactly.
for sure. Anyways, you want to talk about Lauren Summers' outfit?
That's all you.
Okay, dang it. Well, that's it for today. Let us know what you think about Elon, Trump, all of these responses down below, and we'll catch you next week.
Have a good week. Share your dignity with us.
Mac, Mac.